Hi guys, welcome back to Rabbithole Hobbies. I'm Sam. Today we're gonna finally make something with all these bricks we made the other day. If you didn't see that video, check it out here. The beginning, I just talk a little bit about why I'm doing the channel. If you're not interested in that, you can skip to the part where I make the bricks and then come back and we'll get to building. The build I'm gonna do today was inspired a bit by the campaign. I'm running in Dungeons & Dragons with a few of my buddies. They end up going to a place that has a lighthouse. I'm not gonna make any spoilers, and I changed the floor plan to avoid spoilers and also to simplify the model. Before we get into building the model though, I want to talk a little bit about scale, because scale is important when you're doing modeling. And typically minis are 25 or 28 millimeter, roughly a ratio of 1 to 56, 1 inch in mini to being 56 inches in real life. However, dungeon tiles and battle mats are done in 1 inch square grid, one square being 5 feet, which is 60 inches, making the ratio 1 to 60. So the first thing I did was look at lighthouses, and I found that the average height of a lighthouse is 250 feet, 3,000 inches, which scales to about a 4-foot model, which was way too big. I didn't want to make anything that big, so I dug back into a bit of the reading on the lighthouse that they went to, and it's 3 floors and each landing is 20 feet above the other, which makes it about 60 feet. 1 to 60 ratio makes that a 1-foot model. It'll end up being a bit taller when I get the light and stuff on the top, which I didn't figure in, but it'll be close enough. So this is where I'm at right now. Each of these layers of the tower are 2 toilet paper rolls, which I slit down and kind of wrapped together and taped. And I figured out the size for it with minis. I figured I want to be able to fit a couple minis on the top, or else it would look funny. And I compared that to the dice tower my girlfriend Daniela got me for Christmas, which I think is a great size, and the minis fit on it nice. I have a few of them sitting there pretty much all the time. And then the second thing I did was build the entrance building, or the foyer or whatever. Each of these squares has about the same diameter as the tower part. I could have done it a bit bigger, but I didn't, so we're stuck with that. I think it'll look fine anyways. The only real issue I can see is having stuff stick to this tape. I did do a practice run where I stuck this scrap brick to a piece of tape on the cardboard, and it was there for about a day until I played with it and it broke off. So it will stick, you just can't play with it too much. And after we're done building and everything gets coated with a mixture of glue, paint, and water that we're gonna do for our primer, I think everything will stick together a bit better. And before I get to building anything else, I think I'm gonna spray paint this with a black base coat. So I'm hoping that the glue will stick a little bit better, the black spray paint, and that's just in case there's any holes or mistakes. It won't be as obvious because all you'll see is darkness and black, and it'll just look like shadowing. So I'm gonna go spray paint that and then we'll get to building. So here's the tower with its black base coat. While that finishes drying up a bit, we're just gonna make some windows and doors so they're ready to go on when the paint's dry. I'm gonna do 2 doors, one from the ground level and one onto the roof of the square building. It's kind of like an observation deck or a terrace or something. And probably 2 windows for either side up where the staircase on the inside would be. So let's get at that while this finishes drying. So the first step for doing the doors is to cut a thin piece of foam off. You want it to be thinner than the bricks, so when everything's onto the building glued on, it's inset from the outside of the bricks. Grab a mini, get your height and center point, put a dot in with a pencil, which you can use to then draw the shape of the door on. And once you get that drawn on, grab your knife, cut that out, grab your mini again, size it up, make sure it'll look okay, and then grab a toothpick and start scribing in the details for the wood. If you use too much pressure though, it will ball up and look a little awkward, so be careful with that. The last step is to cut some plank pieces of wood out of the foam and then size them up against the door so you can glue them on, and once they're on, you have a perfect looking door. For the windows, I had to use a bit of a different strategy. It was almost impossible to get the thin pieces of foam I had cut for the windows to glue together without sticking them to something, and this way you can stick them on one at a time, and if you're careful at the beginning and don't use too much pressure, you can peel them back off if you have to recut them to make the sizing a little bit more accurate, which is what I ended up having to do here. Once you get those cut and you got the frame and the outside sized up, you just measure off another piece to the size of the inside and get it cut. Maybe make it a little bit thinner so it doesn't look as awkward, and stick it in. Once you get all 4 of those or 3 of those pieces in, throw some glue, smush it around so it adds a little bit of strength, and then with the knife carefully cut around the outside frame of the window, and then when you pop it up, you should have a window frame with glass on the inside. So I think the first step is we're gonna put the doors and windows onto the base of the lighthouse first so that we can brick around them instead of trying to cut brick out afterwards, which I think would be much more difficult. So I'm just gonna try with white glue and see how well that works. Get in there, make sure you get as much coverage as you can. This one's going to be a little bit trickier because it is on a round wall, but I have faith in the process. Now with the windows, we don't want to get any glue on the panes. It does dry clear though, so we won't worry too much. At least now we've gotten glue all over the tape that makes the glass panes, so when it dries, we'll be able to see how big of a deal that is for next time. Maybe we can start bricking on the sides here. Foam stone masonry. I'm also thinking for gaps, we might be able to use the glue almost as a makeshift grout. All right, so I finally got all the bricks done on this, all the way to the top. I think it looks pretty good. You can see down here on the balcony, I made a railing by cutting some of the pillars, the thinner bricks in half and putting them upright and right on where the other two bricks meet, and then using some thin bricks once again to lay across those to make the railing. And then you can also see that this one corner ended up a little sharper, not as round as I would have liked. That's okay, we can't learn from our mistakes if we don't make them. I did find that thinner bricks were a lot easier to use, though while I was building this, I did have to do quite a bit of recutting and fixing to make sure everything fit together reasonably well. The next thing we have to do is cut some very thin brick face to go here, and we're gonna do the same thing up top, and we're gonna make the railing up top too, but first I wanna make the whole piece that's gonna fit in here to do the top, and I think I'm gonna do that separately to make it a little bit easier to work on. We're gonna work on the insert that's gonna go on the top and is gonna be the top of the lighthouse. So I found this jar lid that the outside is about the same size as the hole in the top of the tower. So I think I'm gonna take that and try and cut out a piece of foam that's about that size to see if we can fit it in, and then I can build everything that's gonna go on the top, whatever the light and anything on top of that separately, and then we can just kind of stick that in and glue it in afterwards, or at least that's the plan. So let's see how that works out. So it's still quite a bit too big, so we'll just make it a little bit smaller. We don't want to cut too much off and then have it too small. But even if it is too small, I'm sure we can figure out a way to get it to go and fit on properly. So I'm actually going to cut the bottom more narrow than the top, because all we need is the top to be flat. So if we make it narrow like a cone shape, it'll sit in better. And then when we get to whatever height it is that it fits in properly, we can maybe cut the top off and have it sit in there. I think that's gonna go. For the top, what we need is a light, and I have this dollar store fake candlelight, which the lovely Daniela has graciously allowed me to destroy for this project. And I think I'm gonna try and break the casing off so I can just get the light, the wire, the battery, and the switch, and see what we can do from there. So all we need to do is have these two wires touch the battery, and we're laughing. So what I ended up doing with the light is taking the base out and actually just gluing a switch from another one on, just in case I wanted to use it. I tried to figure out a few ways of doing this, and this just seemed to be the best one. And then I've taken the foam circle we cut out and cut a big divot in it so that this battery thing will sit in there. And then I've taken another piece of toilet paper roll and cut it to the size that'll fit around there, and then glued some skinny, thinner bricks on to kind of match the brick pattern. And I've cut another circle, which I punched out from the actual light casing that this came from, and stuck it in there, carved some pillars, cut another thicker piece out with the same light thing and shaved it into a point, and used one of the light bulb covers as the pin. And so the size of this will fit right around there, and there's a cutout for the switch, so it'll sit in flat, and then the whole top just squeezes right back in to the top of the tower. So I am planning on leaving this removable, because even though I cut this switch out, it doesn't work as well as I thought, so it's something that I might have to fix in the future. But for now, I can live with taking this off, turning it on, and then putting the top back on so that the lighthouse light is flickering. So the next step in our plan here is to cut out some more of these pieces to just put around the rim, and probably make another railing, though the center of this ended up being a bit bigger than I originally planned, so I'm not sure about fitting minis on. I might have to do a second layer of these bricks to thicken it up, and then do the railing off there so there's enough room for the minis to sit on. All right, so I think we're done putting foam on. For the railing here, I used taller and skinnier pieces of foam to make it look more like a weathered wooden railing to go around the outside, and to give it enough room for the minis to sit on, I put 2 extra layers of foam around bricks to make the top a little bit wider. And then for the floor on the top, I did this kind of round pattern with bricks using rectangles and triangle pieces to make it fit in a circular pattern instead of like the pattern that we did on the bottom, because I think it looks a lot better and it makes it a little more interesting to look at. And then the last thing is for the top of the cover underneath the light, I used construction paper to cut out rectangular shingle pieces and kind of glued them on in a staggered pattern, and then topped it with a little cone so that the lighthouse part, the light part, doesn't get wet in the rain. So yeah, that's all for the foam. I think we're ready to paint. So the first thing we're going to do is make the primer. I got a little bit of water in here, and I'm going to mix in a bunch of school glue and black paint, and I'm going to try and make a lighter gray than what I used last time when I made the bricks, and just coat everything to kind of help it stick together and reinforce it, and so that the acrylic that we use afterwards to get all the colors on will stick a little better. And there's no secret recipe. We're just going to mix the colors up until we get a consistency we like. We don't mind that it's kind of watery, because we want it to get into all the nooks and crannies. We're just going to go over this with 1, maybe 2 coats to make sure everything's covered, and then get to the paint. And a little bit of black paint in the cracks while this dried. A little bit of brown for the doors. One more quick wash. I'm gonna do black and I think a tiny little bit of green. And the final step, the last step, is this preserved forest moss that I got at the dollar store for $4. Just gonna add some white glue and the spots we wanna accent with the moss, and give it more of an aged look that will go along with the blacky green wash we did. And then when I'm all done with that, I'll give you guys the big reveal. All right, guys, so the final reveal is coming up in just a second. If you made it this far, don't give up now. I promise it's totally worth it. This is the first model I've ever built, and I'm super stoked about how it turned out. It ended up taking me like 3 times as long as I thought it would, but I learned a whole pile in the process, and I'm super pumped and excited to do another one anytime soon. So if you get any value out of this video, or if you like what you see when I give you the reveal in just a second, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment in the comment section. If this isn't the kind of thing for you, check out my video on building a dinosaur model with clay and stuff I got at the dollar store. That's a super fun project that anybody can do. And I guess thanks for watching, and here it is, the tower.
Thank you.